different cultures. We've had people from every continent come to our events, well, except Antarctica, but next slide, please. All right, so what do we do? So we have a variety of different events that we typically do. We have social events, so that could be cookie decorating, things like that. Cultural events where we do things like this and we talk about food and we talk about different parts of the island that make it our island. And then we also have political events, and sometimes we'll talk about what's going on in the island as far as current events are concerned. But we're always open to new ideas and event formatting. So if any of our members had a suggestion, we would definitely be open to different types of events that we don't already do. The main goal of our events is to foster an open environment for people to get to know each other and celebrate our culture. We like to say that you'll never leave an event without making a new friend. Our people are very warm and welcoming. That's very tied into our culture, just being able to talk. And then going forward, we're hoping to take part in more philanthropic events and off-campus events. And who knows, you might even get to eat delicious food. Unfortunately, we're not on campus right now, but perhaps in the future. So personally, I feel like it's pretty easy for a lot of people who aren't familiar with, Latin, American, Hispanic, etc. culture to just write them off as being, pretty similar in the sense of oh, rice and beans, and certain key materials or ingredients. But there's all these different nuances when you look at these different countries or different cultures. And in the case of Puerto Rico, the cuisine is heavily influenced by a lot of different things. So it's influenced by the Spanish, African, and native Taino, and I'm gonna probably say it incorrectly, but Arawak roots. So from Spain, Puerto Rico received imports of ingredients like olives, cilantro, and chicken, and anybody who knows about Puerto Rican cuisine, those are in literally everything. And then from Africa, they received different varieties of banana, gandules, which is pigeon peas, which is part of arroz con gandules, which is a staple dish in our culture, as well as coffee. I believe it was from the Moroccans, who then got it from Ethiopia, if I'm recalling correctly. And that's how we got some of these main ingredients. Or not Moroccans, I think it was Arabs in general. And then, let's see, the usage of fruits like guava and roots such as uatia and yucca on the island's cuisine are thanks to the indigenous people of the island. So they took a lot of these main types of sort of fruits and roots. And those are probably I would say a very distinct part of Puerto Rican cuisine and Caribbean cuisine in general, because I know that Cuba actually has Taino roots as well. I found that out recently. So today we're going to be talking about Alcapurria, and that's what we're going to be making, or rather Jess is going to be making for us. And Alcapurria is considered a street food in Puerto Rico. Street food is a big part of the island's culture. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, a lot of different parts of the Caribbean have, somebody mentioned that the Dominican Republic also has Taino roots. Yeah, the Taino people are sprinkled all around the Caribbean, so that's really cool. But as I was saying, Alcapurria is a street food, and street food is a big part of the Puerto Rican culture. Everywhere you go on the island, you're gonna find a little vendor here or there. No beach day is complete without after hitting the sand, going to like one of the little stands nearby and just, you know, grabbing something quick to eat. But alcapurria specifically is a fried dish made with amasa, which is like traditionally made of yautía and guineo verde. So that's green plantains. And yautía, like we said in the previous slide, is this root plant, or yucca, and is traditionally filled with your choice of meat or seafood. So some people do shrimp, I think some people do lobster. Like there's just a bunch of different ways to do it. But interpretations can vary depending on who you ask. I'm pretty sure I know somebody who did a vegetarian version. I personally like the ones with meat, but there's a lot of room to for sort of creativity when it comes to this dish, and that's what makes it really special. I don't know if Zoe or Fabi, if you wanted to ask some of the questions.
Yeah, so this is more specific to the Puerto Rican culture, the alcapurria, but we were wondering if this dish reminds you of anything similar from your culture, or something along the lines of like a finger food that you guys might have, or a fritter that's similar to this. So if anyone wants to drop some answers in the chat box, we can read them out for you.
So we have Adriana has shared that in Colombia, and I am going to apologize that I will mispronounce this, but aborrajados that Chef Jesse has made before is something that sounds pretty similar. And someone else has asked potentially similar to papas rellenas. Similar, yeah. The stuffed, fried, yeah.
I think the big difference is the la masa. So like in this case, the flour, but we're using plantains and other vegetables. That's like the main difference between it. So it gives it a completely different taste while still being like similar to papa rellena.
Yeah. And then another question we had is, what is a common street food from your culture? Just like Alex said, like this is something like around Puerto Rico, you can like find vendors everywhere, like little stands. So we just want to know about like maybe from where you guys are from.
I will share that I went to the Netherlands last year for the first time, and I discovered that the street food of choice with vendors in like every train station is French fries. It's just cones of French fries, and I've never been more excited in my life. Just be riding the train eating a French fry.
I love that.
Oh, sorry. For the previous question, someone also answered that hush puppies from the US, and I'm sorry about this, quebes from Arabian cultures. It's also similar to like alcapurria, which is interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of African influence in the Caribbean because of, you know, a bunch of different reasons. And from like all sorts of different regions. I know, like I said, Ethiopia, even Morocco, as well as other Arab nations have a great deal of influence in Spanish culture and in Spanish cuisine, especially like when you talk about Spain, because, you know, you had that whole migration happen back in, I'm terrible with dates in history. I think it was, I'm not even going to say it, but it was a very, very, I'm not even going to try. I think it was probably like I'm not going to try.
All right. So I'll move on to the next question. What's considered a staple item in your cuisine? So from your culture, what's like a staple item or a staple dish maybe that's very representative of your culture and just what they embody?
While people are typing, I will share that two answers I got to the last question was in Brazil. There's something called pastel, which is fried pastry stuffed with your choice of filling. so cheese, meats, and veggies. And then in Colombia, lots of street food includes empanadas and arepas.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure Puerto Rico also has its own like type of arepa too, or am I wrong?
Yeah, ours is made out of flour mostly, and I think like Colombia and Venezuela is made from like corn. So that's like our big distinction, but we can still fill them in with different seafoods or like meat if people want. And there's different flavors too, just like sweet and savory ones.
Yeah, someone else has mentioned Colombia has mango with salt as like a snack, which sounds amazing.
Ooh, I love that. I think Mexico has like the elote, like the corn with the cheese and like the tajin, the like chili powder on it. I know those are so good.
No,
And it's
I love
considered like street food too.
yeah. No, I love like mango with like chili powder and like lime on it. That tastes so good.
We're getting some comments saying people are really hungry now.
This is impressive.
And it's right around dinner time, so this is perfect.
Yeah. We're all struggling through this together. Oh, I have my dinner waiting for me after this, and I'm like,
Zoe, do you want to read the last one?
Yeah, sure. So, why do you think food is such an important aspect of people's heritage? Anyone wants to say what they think?
So while people are typing, I will just pose another question to y'all. So if folks want to join and get involved with your organization, where can they find information about you online? Do y'all have like an Instagram or Facebook or something where people can find out about your events?
so we mostly post our Instagram, and that would be, what is it? It's PRSA.
FSU.
Yeah. And so that's probably the best way to keep up with us. We also do a newsletter, so if anyone wanted to give us their email, we can always add you to the newsletter. But yeah.
Oh, we're on No Central. So if you go on No Central, this year especially, we're gonna do a really good job at like posting events. So obviously for the week, you'll be able to get reminders and you can see what events we're gonna have in the future and stuff on there.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I have a couple of comments saying food is anything that says home, like has a sense of home to it. And then it's part of the culture because it's historical background and changes the way you grow up and how you live your life.
That's true. No.
Because I think to me, the reason why food is so important is because it's kind of a social interaction. So for like a lot of cultures, like, you know, being able to sit down, have your dinner with your family, even the process of like making the food. So like for us, or at least in my house, we used to always make un lechon like for Christmas. And if anybody's ever tried to make that, you know that it is such a pain. You have to like get up at 6 a.m. to start that whole thing. I remember, you know, my parents and we would go like really late at night or like, you know, 4 a.m. to like get the whole pig, and I would be sitting next to this whole pig and I like would remember that and like, wow, that's kind of traumatizing. But you know, it's like those sorts of like bonding experiences. You know, my dad's like, I'll never do it again, and then he would do it every year even though it was such like so much work. And just like that sort of like bonding experience of, you know, not even consuming the food, but just like the process of making it is like just kind of like builds a sense of like closeness and a bond amongst people.
Absolutely.
All right. I think should I stop sharing my screen now?
Sure. If you want to go ahead and stop sharing your screen. Thank you both, or all three of you, so much for presenting and for sharing more about your organization and your culture and your lives with us here today. So what we will do, if Chef Jessie is ready, we will go ahead and we will send it over to that show. And once again, folks, if anyone has questions throughout the process, feel free to type them in the chat box and I can ask on your behalf. Take it away, Jessie.
Ah, I didn't even notice the hat. I like the hat, Jessie.
All right, you're good to go, Jessie.
Hey everybody, mute. Welcome back to International Coffee Hour. Chef Jessie here in the Globe Kitchen. We've got a really exciting recipe for you today. It's called Alcapurria. Thank you so much for that intro with all that great information about it. I went shopping at Publix for everything. It was really easy shop this time. Lots of good ingredients at Publix right now. This dish has got some interesting ingredients, kind of interesting to find at Publix. One of the things we've got is it's called cilantro, and it is similar to cilantro. It's also called racao, and it is a kind of a long, spiky, fragrant herb, and it's used in Asian food, Caribbean food, South American food, and it's really good as part of a sofrito for our meat base, for our filling. If you can't find the cilantro, you can just use cilantro. We've got oil, some garlic clove, some just plain green bell pepper. You can also get Cubanelle peppers. They're a little bit more expensive and they're light green. You'll see them in with like the jalapenos and chilies and things like that. And that's just one whole green bell pepper, one whole onion. And then we've got some green olives with pimento diced up here. Then we also have capers. And if you've never worked with capers, they're a pickled flower bud that are just kind of salty and briny. It's in a lot of Mediterranean food, and it's in some Caribbean food, some American food, Italian food. But this is with the pickles and that kind of thing. Other kind of interesting ingredients, we've got salt pork. And this is in the meat section in Publix. And I was really happy to find this. Salt pork is basically, let me put a glove on here so I don't get my hands dirty. Salt pork is basically a pork belly, so bacon that has not been cured and it has not been smoked, but it has been kind of semi-cured with salt. To do a real true cure, you set it up with a nitrate that cures the meat. But this is just a salt pork, and we dice this up. I'll show you later, but we make this kind of crunchy, fatty meat that gets put into the filling, and it's called tocino. And then for our meat filling, we're going to use a mixture of 50/50 ground pork and ground beef. You can use all ground pork, you can use all ground beef. I saw turkey, chicken, it's kind of up to you how, what type of meat you want to use in your filling. We also saw shrimp and crab filling, particularly with the yucca shell. For the masa, the dough, I've got 3 ingredients for that. This is malanga, is what it's called in Publix. It's with the yucca, but I think this is the yaltia. It's not taro, but I think malanga and yaltia are the same, just different names. And it is it's kind of like a potato. You peel it, and it's kind of sticky and really white, and then you're gonna grate it on a box grater on the fine side, so you get a really nice shredded yaltia. And then you have 1 plantain. And last week we did a plantain recipe too, like a mashed plantain. And so if you were here last week, you kind of learned about the Colombian version of sofrita called hogao. And so this week we're going to do this Puerto Rican version. And there's many versions, so it's pretty cool to kind of do something different than we did last week, but similar. So I'm gonna show you how to peel the plantain. We did this last week, but I'll show you this week in case you missed it last week. It's got these ridges in it, and so we gently cut where the ridges are. Kind of helps to be able to peel it off after we cut it this way. I've also heard you can soak these in hot water and make it easier. I have not tried that yet. Then you're gonna kind of stick your knife in the top of where you cut, and you're gonna peel it back. Oh yeah, this one's pretty good. See if I can do it with my nail. Yeah, you can do it with your fingernails. You don't need to stick your knife in there necessarily. It kind of depends on how green the plantain is. If it's very, very green, this peel sticks even more to the plantain part. These ones are green, but they're a little bit softer. All right. So yeah, if you have any residual skin, you definitely want to cut that off with a paring knife. That turns really dark brown and it's bitter. It's not very good. So you're going to shred this on the fine one too. And then I wanted to show you, if you get fresh yucca, how to prepare the yucca. If you can only find yucca at the store, or if you go to the grocery store and you can find some shredded frozen yucca, you can use that too. They didn't have the shredded frozen at Publix, but they do at the Asian store. And that can make this dish a little bit faster and easier to make, so you don't have to go through this step. But the fresh yucca is really good. They've got it at Publix here. And I'm gonna cut off both ends. You're gonna peel it. And you see here how we have some purple peel here. You wanna get all that purple out. And there's even like a little kind of layer under the purple, and it's kind of like an off-white. You wanna take that off too. So you get down just to the pure inner part of the root. Okay. So the tricky thing about yucca is it has a little stem, or like I guess like a root that grows through the middle of it. And so you're gonna wanna cut it into workable size, and then you cut it right down the middle. And then you're gonna look around here, and we're gonna see that there's kind of a little root in here. So we're gonna use a knife to cut a little channel down the center to remove that root. And yucca is pretty hard. This is like an extra hard potato. It's not that juicy. And so you want to watch your knife in here to make sure you don't lose control of it and nick your finger. But yeah, there you can see the root in this one better. It's just like kind of off-white, kind of brown. And it's just really stringy and woody. And so it'll shred up into the actual meat of the yucca, and then you'll just get little woody bits. And so you just want to cut that out. All right. So yeah, you'll shred all that together. And then you'll come up with this. You see, once you shred it, you want to keep it packed in airtight here as you're shredding each one. And because you don't want it to oxidize. It'll start turning brown from the air. Okay, so from there we're going to, oh yeah, we didn't talk about this actually. We did this last week too. We made some annatto oil. And you use these seeds, you boil them in some oil, and you get this really beautiful color, really light flavor. If you don't want to make annatto oil, you can also just use some kind of achiote flavored seasoning and put about a teaspoon or so of that into your grated up starch. All right, I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of the oil in here. Whoops, I got a seed in there. And then I'm going to stir it up. And it's going to give it this nice orange color. And then you're going to want to put this sealed back up in the refrigerator for at least 3 hours or overnight. If you have a food processor, there is kind of like a shortcut cheat way to do this. And you basically cut all of your starches up into kind of like a dice size, large chunks, medium chunks, and then you put it into a food processor and you grate it all up and grind it all up in a food processor. It's more turns into chunks rather than like really fine chunks rather than really fine shreds, but it still works really well, and you don't have to do all the hand shredding. The example that I made yesterday, I used the food processor for, and it turned out really well. I'm interested to see what the texture difference might be with the shredded rather than the chopped up food processor one. So we'll see. All right, let's clear this out. Put this here. Clean this. All right, so next we're going to move into the sofria. The sofria, sorry. And so we're going to cook it in some oil, but we're going to also do this in a food processor. I've got a really big one here, and it goes pretty quick. This is a small amount though, so we'll see if it grinds it up really well. You can also do this by hand by just mincing everything up. It takes a good bit longer, but it is doable by hand. All right, so got about a clove of garlic. We're gonna put in a whole packet of that Rico. We're gonna put in the whole green pepper, the whole onion. You can make a double batch of this and put it into little Ziploc bags and freeze it. So you pop it out of your freezer and just, you know, this is a flavor base for all types of recipes. So you can even buy sofrito in the freezer section of Publix. The international section, I saw Goya has a sofrito mix. I don't know how good it is, but they do have it. All right, so this might be a little bit loud, but we're gonna turn this on. We're gonna grind it up. We'll probably do one more pass in it, so you can come in, get your big chunks. You can lift it up, get the stuff on the bottom, kind of turn it around a little bit. This is definitely the easy way, but I don't have a food processor at home. I'm not really a food processor kind of person, but luckily I have this one here at work. But so I would do this personally by hand at home. Oops. All right, press that all the way down. Here we go. Just a couple more seconds there. All right. Get all the onion out of there. Okay, so we've got a pan that's on about a medium-high heat here. We're gonna put in our oil. Medium-high. And then you're gonna add your sofrito. This might seem like a lot of sofrito, but it does cook down quite a bit. And this adds so much flavor to the meat. All the cilantro and the peppers, it's just really delicious. So I personally might go a little heavier on sofrito than other people, but that's me. All right, I'm gonna turn that up a little bit because we're just gonna get this moving along. Okay, you can stay here. Okay. This is a pretty big pan. I think this is about a 14-inch saute pan. So you're gonna need at least a 12-inch. You can do it with a 10-inch too, but we're gonna put a pound of ground meat into this. And so the more kind of surface area you have, the better. The faster it'll cook. All right. All right, from here, we're gonna add some salt. All right. All right, I'm gonna let this set and cook, and then I'm gonna show you all how to cut up and prepare this salt pork into the tocino. Let me turn it down a little bit, it's pretty high. Okay, all right. So salt pork, let me get my glove on. In France, they call these lardons. and they're added to all types of dishes too. And it's already salty, so you don't need to add any salt to it or anything. And it just adds a really delicious kind of fatty salty crunch to fillings of all types. So we're gonna slice it. We're gonna cut it into strips. Whoa, watch out. Ugh, I don't know, I'm not gonna put that back in my ear. I'm gonna eat these ones, I promise. Can y'all still hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool. I guess one of these works by itself still too. Okay, so you're gonna go ahead and gather those strips together and you're gonna dice these up. And then these are gonna go into just a hot, dry pan. And then this oil, or the fat is gonna turn to oil as it heats up, and so it'll create its own grease it'll crisp up. And these are kind of hard to find at Publix actually. They're in, the meat section is usually in the back corner. And so there's those freezers that are on the floor, those just big chest freezers. They're usually by the pork in the chest freezer. And so that's where you can find it. It's not smoked. Real tasty though. I think salt pork is used a lot in Puerto Rican food from what I can tell. Alex or Fabiola, do y'all know any other dishes that the salt pork is used in?
I know my family sometimes in the arroz con gandules, they use it. It just adds more flavor to the rice for whatever reason. And so I know that's one thing that we definitely use it for.
Oh yeah, because I was looking up different things to put this into, and I saw that it can just go into rice, like into like a salt pork rice. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's really good. And with the sofrito too. So like that same process that you're doing right there, but just we end up putting water and then the rice with this like the seasoning. So that's when it turns the orangey color that it has.
Yeah, very cool. Do you all use the cilantro for your sofrito, or do you use plain cilantro?
No, we use the culantro, which is the recao, along with all the peppers. I know my family just like, we make one big batch and then we put it in little cans or whatever and then freeze them. And then we have one in the fridge that we use daily.
Yeah.
And then that's how we keep it going because it's used literally in everything. Beans, rice, any meat that we want to do, we use it in.
Right. Yeah, it's a great bake. It's delicious.
I know actually uses both. She actually uses cilantro and cilantro, but she also makes it in bulk too and freezes it because it does like go in everything.
Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of different recipes even for this one. Some people put like a sweet chili in there, like not even a red bell pepper. They call it ají or some kind of
ají dulce. Yeah.
Yeah, ají dulce.
Yeah, we use that a lot too. One mistake that I know my family has made in the past is not realizing that they didn't buy the sweet peppers and bought the spicy ones, and then your cilantro comes out spicy, and you don't want that. So always make sure you're buying the right peppers.
Yeah, the ají dulce, I was looking at it. It looks just like a habanero.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you have to be careful.
That could be problematic. Yeah. Here, I'm gonna put this cutting board over here. All right, so the sofrito is cooking down, and we're about ready to add our other ingredients. Just gathering them up, and then our tocino is slowly cooking here. We've got it on like a medium heat. We can actually take we can kind of stir it around a little bit. It'll stick a little bit, but it'll come right off. You're basically just trying to crisp it up and cook it. You don't want to go too fast, it will burn, so it's on about a medium heat. Okay, and the sofrito too, you don't want that to be on too high of a heat because we don't want to brown the sofrito. We want it to be like sweated and the onions and peppers to be softened. But we don't want that to be browning. So that's looking pretty good. Let's add in our olives and capers. And we've got a little bit of oregano, actually. Let's do a little oregano. Do a little dash here. And I'm gonna put in our tocino that we made earlier. All right, so the ground meat, I'm gonna switch from this soft one to a metal spoon. I'm gonna turn up the heat and we're gonna add in the ground meat. So this, you're gonna wanna kind of cut up to the metal spoon as it mixes in. And so it kind of cooks up in small pieces. We don't want big chunks of the ground meat. We want it to get mixed in with all this, and so you can kind of smush it, chop it up, smush it. One recipe I saw for this too added yellow or regular raisins. I think they just use yellow raisins because that's what they had in their pantry. But they soaked the raisins in rum overnight and then added those into this, and that looked particularly good. And I know it's like picadillo, like there's raisins in picadillo, right?
Yeah, they also put raisins in like in the ground meat as well as in like pastelillos or empanadas. They use it in the ground meat with raisins. It's kind of up to you. It depends on like your taste buds, but I know that it's popular to use raisins.
All right, so you're just gonna keep kind of chopping this up, getting the sofrito mixed in, and you're gonna cook it until that meat is well cooked. And it's gonna take another 5-6 minutes on medium-high heat. Just keep mushing it. And then when it's done cooking, you're gonna wanna taste it and then add salt and pepper to taste. So ground black pepper, regular old salt. All right. And your filling can be a little on the salty side too. I mean, the olives and the capers are definitely going to add a good amount of salt to it. But the masa on the outside is, it's really starchy, and so that can definitely take a lot of salt. Okay.
So
Right,
Jesse,
so
we have a question for you.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read it as is because I enjoy the wording. Do wooden spoons have a place in a commercial kitchen like the one at CGE?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Yeah, do wooden spoons have a place in a commercial kitchen like at CGE?
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, wooden spoons definitely have a place in your home, and they're great. They're great tools to use for all types of dishes. But in terms of a commercial kitchen, they're typically not allowed because they're porous and they can hold, different types of pathogens if they're not cleaned correctly. Like the stainless steel, and that's why most kitchens are stainless steel, is because it's non-porous, it's easy to clean, and it's pretty much indestructible. But I mean, personally, like if I'm making risotto or any number of dishes, like I definitely prefer like at least a bamboo spoon or some type of wooden spoon. But yeah, I'm kind of limited to some metal spoons here. All right, our crispy pork's looking good right here. Let's turn that down. So that's the tocino. That's ready to go right there. You can cook it a little more if you want, but I mean that looks pretty good to me. That's nice and cooked and crispy and still a little bit fatty. I'm sure people kind of have different ways they like theirs, just like people like bacon here. Some people like it extra crispy. Some people like it a little soft and fatty. So that was good to me. We're gonna move our little fryer here. We need to get a fryer for this recipe because the end result is fried. And you don't want the temperature too high. It will burn these pretty quickly. So really going at like 300 to start is a good idea. Mine's a little bit hot right now, so I'm gonna let it kind of chill as we move on to the next step. Let me find my filling. Sorry, Laura, you wanna switch spots? All right. All right, so this is a masa I made earlier. Actually, I'll try the one that I made just now too, to see if I can get it to work. Laura, you want to come over here? Okay. So this is the one that I made yesterday that we chopped in the food processor. You can see where it's kind of a little, it's like minced, super minced. And then this is the one that we did today that's like shredded, and it's I kind of like the feeling of the shredded one. But yeah, that is it. I'm gonna do a little sand spray on this gloved hand just because it'll be easier to release it. This is filling that I made earlier too. It's ready to go. And we're basically gonna get a, not quite a tennis ball. These end up being pretty large. They're not tiny appetizers. They're pretty hearty appetizers. Would you usually eat just one of these, or would you eat like more than one at a time?
You're allowed to eat more than one at a time, but usually, I know in most like little stations in Puerto Rico, they're very like skinny and long, rather than like
skinny.
Yeah, rather than
okay.
like and chubby. You
All
know
right,
what I mean?
let's try to make a skinny long one. So yeah, it helps if you have a bigger hand. You can spread it out on your hand like this. So it's about 1/4 of an inch thick right now. We'll see how this goes. It's actually pretty easy to repair if it starts coming apart. So I put about 2 tablespoons of filling in there. And then we're just gonna push it together kind of like a clam. There's one video on YouTube I was watching, they were really into the clam idea. And I'm gonna bring this together. And then if you have enough, you can keep spreading it, or you can just go ahead and grab some of this and add some on top. Kind of depends on how much you started with. Okay. Oh, that's pretty good. And so you really need to get a good amount on here. So you kind of work it around a little bit, see where your weak spots are, add a little bit more. All right, there we go. Here's this one. And let's see if we can shape it into a longer, like how long do you think? Like 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches?
4 to 5, I think.
4 to 5. Let's go with that.
That one looks
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let me try to clean up my hand real quick here. And then it helps if you have a nice long spoon. I'm gonna set it on the spoon. Then we're gonna gently get it into our oil. All right. That oil's at 350, so it's a little bit high, but I think it'll be fine. The heat's off on it, so it'll kind of cool down as this Alcapurria is in there. It'll balance out. All right, so let's try the other one. Let's do this one more time. This one has not been sitting for 3 hours, so we'll see if you can get this to work right off the bat. Kind of interesting to see. We can pull it off. All right. So there's that. Couple tablespoons of our filling.
I think sometimes they freeze the masa in some recipes just to make it easier to like handle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not breaking apart as much. So I think some recipes they do that, but obviously not all. So
yeah,
that looks good.
This one, so yeah, people use different root vegetables for the masa too. So this one had a combination of all 3: the plantain, the yaltia, and the yucca. And that was, when I saw this one on YouTube, I was like, yes, I like the combination of all 3. And maybe it's, kind of depends on the different starches you use, how stretchy they are or how forgiving they are. But this seems pretty forgiving to me. Like, it's a little bit moist, so it's kind of wants to stick to your hands a lot. So it kind of comes off the filling a little bit, but I think we'll make it work. I've never had this dish before, so I'm really excited that we got to do it. This is really fun. And I'm definitely going to make it in the future. I could see this going really well for in-person coffee hour whenever we get to come do that again.
The masa from yesterday, the first one you used,
Yeah,
what vegetables did you say that one had?
it was the same as the one today.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yaltia, the plantain, and yeah, it was just ground
Okay.
up in the food processor rather than being shredded. So this
Shredded,
one's
oh.
shredded today, and it is a little, and it hasn't sat, so it is a little moist still. I think it dries out a little bit, but I ended up making this one pretty big. But all right, let's give it a try and see what happens. If I can get it in there, it'll. All right, let's turn that back up too.
At coffee hour in person, would you serve big ones like this, or do you think you would do more bite-sized? I think this was a very important question posed.
Oh, we would definitely do the large size, yeah. Yeah, because if we make them too small, then we'd want to give 2 per person. So, you know, we try to be generous at coffee hour the most we can, or best we can. Sometimes what we're making doesn't actually work out, so we have to cut it in tiny pieces for people. Sometimes we have plenty for everybody, for 400 or 500 people. All right, so the heat's back up. Let's move this over. Let's take a look at them frying here. We'll turn one, and I'll show you a couple that I cooked earlier. We'll open one up and give it a try. All right, so this one's, yeah, nice and golden brown. We're gently gonna roll it, and it's gonna cook. It cooks for about 5 minutes on each side. If you want to make a bunch of these, I also saw that you can use the filling or use the masa, make a bunch of these, you know, form a bunch of them, and then put them in the freezer and pull them out and cook them from being frozen. So if you make a whole recipe like this and there's only a couple of you at home, you know, feel free to freeze them and then pull them out and fry them later. Just have a snack in the freezer. All right, so these are the ones we made earlier. All right. Nice and golden brown. Pull them out and let them sit on get the oil off of them. And then I had some hot sauce, actually. I really liked this. There we go. And then this one. There we go. A little hot sauce here, and we're ready to. Where's my hot sauce? I think I lost my hot sauce. Oh, no, here in a sec. Does anybody else have any other questions, or?
So other than hot sauce, is there typically any other sauces that go with this dish, or are they usually eaten plain?
They're typically eaten plain, but I do know that like Puerto Ricans like to use a lot of mayo ketchup, so mayonnaise and ketchup, and sometimes like your fried food is dipped in mayonnaise and ketchup. But yeah, for the most part, they're eating without any sauces or anything.
Even though there's only one plantain in this, the plantain flavor seems to really come through. I think
Is it really savory?
So good. Oh, it's so savory, it's so good. Yeah, so I've got 2 more coming out of the fryer here, and I'm probably gonna make about 10 more of these. I guess Laura and I are gonna eat a couple of these, freeze the rest. Next time we see you, just come and see me. I'll try to pull them out of the freezer. So yeah, if there's no more questions, that's about it for me. I'll send it back to you, Michelle, and y'all can start your conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jesse. We really appreciate you showing us how to make this dish. That's awesome. Well, once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today and for participating in Coffee Hour. And of course, I want to thank our presenters for sharing your time with us and culture, and also for Chef Jesse and Laura and Kevin and all the folks behind the scenes who are helping running this event and making sure everything goes smoothly. So what we will do now, for those that want to stick